My name is Pete Weiland. I ended up as a full lieutenant. I spent 4 years in the Navy, active duty, and I was a pilot on the USS Intrepid. I joined the Naval ROTC at Princeton. So I joined in 1951. The first 3 times I flew, I got airsick. And I thought, oh, I'm going to make some sort of pilot, aren't I? You had to study the planes, you had to study the theory of flight, you had to study the engines, and we also flew every day. I was stationed at Quonset Point, Rhode Island. I didn't have any trouble adjusting. Having been in the NROTC, I spent all my summers on board ship. Flew AD Sky Raiders, which is a single-engine propeller-driven attack plane. We were based in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, and so we flew out to the Intrepid and landed on the Intrepid and made a cruise then. We would fly out maybe 200 miles from the ship and identify incoming threats to the ship. We also did anti-submarine work. And we were an all-weather day-night squadron. We flew in good weather and bad. And some of the planes on the Intrepid in those days didn't fly at night and didn't fly in bad weather. But we did, and we were very proud of the fact that we flew in all different times. I have 100 landings on the Intrepid. I have the same number of landings as I have takeoffs, which is good. And of those 100 landings, 22 were at night. So, almost a quarter of my flying was at nighttime. To see those 3,500 men all working together as a team was really a wonderful thing to watch. To look at the flight deck during launching and recovering of aircraft and seeing those men with the different colored shirts, each of them doing a different job and each of them doing it well, was like a ballet out there. I think it was difficult, and I think of the boys and women coming back today, how difficult it is. Every moment when I was in the Navy, every moment was a life-threatening moment. When you launched from the ship, your life was threatened, and every decision you made had life implications. It's basically a hazardous business. And so we can all tell half a dozen stories of close calls. And I can remember quite a few of those. I took off about 11 o'clock at night. It was solid cloud cover. And I flew my mission. I went up to 10,000 feet. I got above the clouds. I flew my mission. I came back about 2 o'clock in the morning, went down through the clouds, and you trust your altimeter then. And I watched it go from 10,000 to 8,000 to 6,000 to 4,000 to 2,000, and I still hadn't broken out. Finally, I broke out at 600 feet. And I spotted the aircraft warning light. Every Navy ship has a red light on the top mast and of the Intrepid, and I headed for that. And at that point in time, a pilot's very busy. You have to open the canopy, you have to put down the tail hook, you have to put down the flaps, you have to put down the landing gear, you have to change the fuel-air ratio, you have to change your propeller pitch, you have to change your throttle setting. Each one of these things changes the flight characteristics of the plane. So you're really busy. And every once in a while I'd look up and see the red aircraft warning light ahead of me. Finally I got the plane stabilized at 200 feet, and I looked up and I couldn't see the mirror landing system. And suddenly I realized I was making a landing approach on a destroyer. I had picked out the wrong aircraft warning light, and I went by that destroyer at about 50 feet, and I've often wondered what the fantail watch thought when they saw me boring in on them at 2 o'clock in the morning. I always made it back, and I was very pleased to do that. When I got out of the Navy, I went to work for General Electric Company, and I was doing things that I considered inconsequential. And they weren't inconsequential, but compared to life-threatening things, they were. My father was dead. Had I had a father, I think he would have helped. But a lot of these guys don't, and they really need some understanding. You need someone to talk to. I needed someone to talk to about the fact that I thought my job was inconsequential. Now I look back at it, it wasn't inconsequential. But again, compared to a life-threatening environment, it was. I love volunteering on the Intrepid. I usually am on the bridge, but it doesn't matter where I am. And I engage those people who want to talk. Some people just kind of pour right through and don't pay much attention. But some people come through and their eyes are open and they're looking around, and I engage them in conversations and I tell them stories about my experience in the Navy, and they love it. They love it. So that makes me feel good. The friendships were very, very warm and very close. And today I still see and correspond with several of my pilot friends from those days, 55, 60 years ago. Well, I look back on my time in the Navy with a great deal of fondness, and interestingly enough, the farther back it recedes, the better it seems. But I had good friends and good loyalties, and I was a great believer in serving my country. And so when Veterans Day, Memorial Day, times like that come along, I try to celebrate them in order to show people what I cared about my country.